What's up, Lorcana players? Havry here, and welcome to part 2 of my Rise of the Floodborn card review. This time, we're going to be looking at the actual Floodborn cards themselves. These cards are all incredibly exciting for the game, and I think they're all going to be really strong and interesting. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about a card that I actually forgot to review last time. Ruby's getting a brand new item in the form of Dinner Bell. A 4-mana uninkable item, and for 2 mana, draw cards equal to the damage on chosen character of yours, then banish them. So, the thing with Dinner Bell is that this effect sounds solid enough on paper, right? You get a card that rushes in, and then you can immediately use Dinner Bell's effect to subsequently get rid of a card on the board, and also draw cards. But the thing is, there are so many reasons not to run Dinner Bell that I don't see it being viable. So, I think drawing cards is important, but I don't think drawing cards at the expense of your own board control is worth it. I feel like if you really want to draw cards, you should just partner yourself up with a color that likes to draw cards. For example, Ruby Amethyst is incredibly popular right now. That's a very, very strong deck. So why would you use Dinner Bell when you could just use a different form of card draw from Amethyst? There's so many forms of card draw in Amethyst. Friends from the Other Side. You got Magic Mirror, which is just another item that I think is better than this one. I would say there are maybe some cases where this could be good. Like, this is just theory crafting, but maybe you put out a big card. You know, just a vague big card. And then you play The Beast Is Mine. And you make sure that all their guys run into your big guy. And then you use Dinner Bell to sacrifice that big guy to help you draw cards on top of getting rid of all of your opponent's small guys, right? Even then, why would you not just play Be Prepared? That does basically the same thing, except you don't draw cards. So, yeah, Dinner Bell doesn't really excite me personally. I think that the consequence for drawing said cards is too steep. I just don't see there being any payoff to playing a card like Dinner Bell. Dinner Bell is just one of those cards that's only good if you're winning, and when you're not winning, this card is absolutely useless. And on top of that, you can't even ink it. Even in your hand, it's bad. It looks like Amber's being treated really well with this expansion because we have the Queen. The Queen is a 5-mana 4/3 lore for 2. Shift 2. This is actually the cheapest shift we've seen so far. Whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 attack this turn, and chosen character gets +4 attack this turn. So I find this card's effect to be incredibly powerful, especially for the color that it's on. Since Amber's typically the color of aggro, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to just beef up your smaller, easier to play guys and just make their bigger, harder to play guys so puny. And for that reason alone, I think it's going to be a staple in many, many aggro decks. It basically combos a stronger Control Your Temper and He's Got a Sword into one card. And I think the best kind of cards are the cards that combine multiple cards into one to make your deck list smaller. And the fact that it can also shift for 2 is absolutely insane. Now granted, Amber doesn't have a queen yet, but it's safe to assume it'll definitely get one in this upcoming expansion. But even then, just playing this for 5 is not bad at all. A 5-mana 4/3 lore for 2 isn't amazing, but its effect definitely compensates for that weakness. What's even crazier about this card is that you can actually just target the queen herself, and then you can keep questing for 2 over and over again while making sure that their guys can't touch you, because they'll either have no attack to attack you with, or you'll have way too much attack to easily destroy much bigger threats with. I think that alone, even if the queen is on the board by herself, she's still strong. But if the queen has allies to back her up, then she's even better. You could just make your Hades Infernal Schemer a 7/6 whenever it quests. And then it's basically unkillable, unless you want to sacrifice another one of your big guys, or you have hard removal, of course. So yeah, I think Queen is a very exciting card. I think it'll be a staple in every aggro deck, and I definitely think that it might be one of the strongest cards revealed so far. We finally get to talk about a card from my favorite color, Sapphire, Gaston. So Gaston, the intellectual powerhouse, is a 6 mana uninkable card, 4 attack, 4 health, quest for 3, shift 4, its effect developed brain. When you play this character, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you may put one into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. First and foremost, I just want to comment on the art here. He legitimately is just such a genius. I mean, look at that plan. How could that plan possibly fail? Anyways, about Gaston himself, I think the card's good. I don't think it's as much of a powerhouse as the other Floodborn cards are, but I definitely still think it's a solid enough card. I mean, 6 mana 4/4 quest for 3 is already pretty alright. I mean, you have Stitch, who's a 6 mana 4/6 quest for 3, but I don't think these stats are awful, especially if you shift him, you know, that would be pretty great. Its effect is actually pretty good. I mean, Develop Your Brain's already a really good card. It's just the fact that the reason why Develop Your Brain is so good is because it essentially makes your deck 56 cards when you run 4 copies of it. And when you have Gaston doing the same thing, you could, in theory, have a 52 card deck, which would be pretty nice. On top of the benefit of just having a 4/4 on the board whenever you play it. I definitely don't think this card is going to be a staple by any means, but I do think if there's a really good blue Gaston that's revealed, then I definitely can see it becoming a really good card. Because right now the only card it can shift on is the Gaston from the Ruby section, and that Gaston isn't really that great. So I don't really see this card seeing a lot of immediate play unless a really good blue Gaston is revealed. Because while it on its own isn't a bad card, I definitely have a lot of other cards that I want to run instead. It's also unfortunate that this card kind of has to compete for a deck slot with Robin Hood, because Robin Hood is an honestly incredible card that kind of does the same thing that Gaston does. And Robin Hood by himself, I honestly think is a little bit better than Gaston. Sure, he quests for 1 less, but I think his other effect that gives him evasive during your turn, it gives it such more of an obnoxious board presence than Gaston does. So yeah, I don't think Gaston on his own is bad. I just think that we need to see a few more cards come out before we can say that Gaston really is a staple, but I think it definitely has potential to be a really strong card. Up next is a card causing quite a bit of buzz is Cinderella, a 7 mana 5/5 quest for 3, shift 5, resist 2, and its effect Singing Sword. Whenever you play a song, this character may challenge ready characters this turn. That is quite the wall of text on this card, so this card has quite a bit going for it. On top of being a shift 5, on top of being a resist 2, on top of questing for 3, it can attack ready characters. So your Aurora Dreaming Guardians are no longer safe in the presence of Cinderella. So on paper, this all sounds absolutely incredible. And while I think Cinderella is an incredibly strong card, I definitely think people are overhyping that last part. This character may challenge ready characters this turn. While that effect sounds good on paper, I just don't think the situation where characters are ready when their opponent is playing is a situation that happens often. Now granted, there are some cards that you aren't going to want to challenge or quest with, like of course your Aurora Dreaming Guardians, but I don't think that there's enough cards in the game at this time to say that this effect is game breaking. However, there is to say that there is an inherent pressure when this card is on the field. If you play simply one song, let's just say for example, Grab Your Swords, which is an amazing combo with this card, you can attack anybody you want, even if they didn't want to get challenged. It's also worth noting that since this card has resist, it can challenge other 5/5s and even 6/5s and come out on top. This is definitely one of those boss monster cards that most card games have, and I definitely think it will be one of the strongest of its kind, but I also think it's pretty well balanced by the fact that you can just Maleficent it, you could just Hades it, you could just let it go it. There's just so many ways to remove this card without having to deal damage to it that I don't think it'll just completely mop the floor with the metagame. With that said though, I think this card is incredibly powerful and we'll see lots of competitive play. I look forward to playing it myself. And those were the Floodborn cards for Rise of the Floodborn. These cards are all incredibly exciting and I look forward to seeing how they perform in the metagame. If you guys liked this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.